I believe that sometimes we do a random thing during our art making, and that sometimes these unpremeditated things result in something very interesting. Today, I'm going to explore one of these interesting results. I was making some prints last winter when botanicals were unavailable. I rolled up my plate, placed some geometric stencils on the plate, and then added some botanical stencils that I'd made from my favorite weed. Nothing new so far. I pulled 2 negative prints and then, on a whim, removed the botanical stencils, leaving just the geometric ones on the plate. The next print was a positive-negative print. I really like the effect, and that's what I'm going to explore today. So this morning, I caught my husband weeding the junipers again. And I realized that my opportunity to print this stuff, which, by the way, I've found out is not creeping Charlie, as I had suggested on a previous video. It's actually some type of early bindweed. Between my husband and the hot spell that we're getting, my window of opportunity to work with this material is rapidly closing. So in this video, again, I'm going to be using the golden open acrylic paints in a variety of colors. That'll change as I go through the different printing operations. I'll tell you what colors they are as they come up. But these ones I find are really useful to give me some more working time and multiple prints out of a single roll-up of the plate. I'm also going to be using the Spectra Artist Tissue, which is much stronger than Dollar Store, but not as strong as the wet strength tissue. My first attempt didn't quite give me what I was hoping for, but when you don't get what you want, you get information. The prints weren't bad, but I had removed some of the botanicals before enough of the paint had been removed from the background. So the positive-negative print lacked contrast. My second and subsequent attempts were much better. This is Payne's Gray. I use a lot of it, so I get it in a jar. It might be kind of a lot over there. This is some anthracnone blue, which I find really goes well with some of the ones that are darker. But I want to be a little bit more colorful than that. Only one that's going to stand up to those would be the purple. So based on that first set of prints, I think what I'm going to do is do 2 negatives before I lift any of the foliage. Well, this time I have to try to remember which ones are on top so I can remove those. That's a fine mess of stuff. Okay. This is a lot more vegetation than I normally put on my plate. Oh, well, that's kind of interesting. I like the color. Definitely going to need a second. I used to think these negative tissues were almost like a waste. Maybe I should be just using, newspaper or something. But I found that I do use them, and I like to use them in my collages occasionally. So, they're definitely not a waste. And sometimes I can make them into stencils. Or they give me inspiration for other things. One man's waste is another man's treasure. So, yeah. Oh, this is coming along just fine. So, yeah. Got much more of the paint off with that rub. Okay, now I have to remember which ones I put on top. I think I did this one. Oh, look at that, I did. And there was something, that's a double header. I don't think it was that one. I think it might be this one. Oh, yeah. And I might take this one off as well. Yeah. So that gives me a balance of what will be voids in this next print and what will be plant matter. So you can see right away the ones that I lifted, how they're coming through the tissue. Well, not through the tissue, but you can see them very distinctly on the tissue. I think I like that about printing on tissue, You can kind of get a sense of what's happening on your plate than just printing with regular paper. Mind you, it also serves my purpose because I want to collage with it, and the tissue allows layers that are underneath to show through, whereas if I was just printing on like a thinner regular paper, it would be opaque and I would lose some of that. So this is quite an interesting tissue. With the voids and some of the leaves, that's quite pretty. And now we'll take these big pieces off. And I'll be able to print this positive with the ghosts of the other vegetation in the background, which is kind of what I was looking for. Look at that. Yeah, I am getting that sense of depth there that I was looking for. That I'm not going to put that down on the plate because that's going to pick up paint from below, but I am getting that sense of depth that I was seeking. And I think it's worth taking a last ghost print of this too, because it is really quite a lovely color. That dioxazine purple, you don't need a lot of it for it to swing the color towards the violets, especially blue violets I really like. There. There we go. That's a very pretty pull. And by the way, these are my hands. Quite messy, but soap and water cleanup. I'm going to go back to the sap green. I do like that color combination. With the transparent red iron oxide, I'm going to put a bit more of it. It's quite a weak color on a plate. I'm going to put a bit more of that on this time. And just a smidge of the dioxazine purple. Just a couple of dabs here and there. That's my little studio dog, Katie. She's just alerting me to the arrival of somebody. Okay, see if I can keep track of what's on top and what's underneath. There we go. Wow, that's a lot of busyness. Quite like the color though. This is a more delicate roll-up color-wise than the previous one. So I'm kind of expecting different results here. It should be quite interesting to see what happens. I'm just using my thumb to follow all the stems down through and give them a good press, because I find that's where the detail is that I really like about this particular plant. There we go. So this is negative print number 2. There's some interesting things happening in the background of this with just the texture coming through from the tissue paper is kind of interesting. Now I have to figure out who went down on top. I think I planned this one to come off. This is a little bit like pickup sticks. It goes under, this one goes over. There we go. Okay. Oh, I'm liking what I'm seeing here. Yeah, this is something I'm going to explore more this summer, for sure. I think there's some really interesting things happening here. And then everything else comes off, and we get a combination of positive and ghost. Oh dear. It's too bad when that happens and your tissue goes down before you're ready for it, because some of these images will come up as duplicates now, but that's okay. May not be quite as clear as if I hadn't had that little blooper, but there's still some very, very interesting stuff going on here, and stuff happening in the background where the ghost is happening. I could take one more print off of this if I wanted to, but I think I've kind of got what I want out of that, and I'm going to give it another bit of a roll up. I don't have a lot of this stuff left, but I do have some, and I really, really hate to waste anything. So I'm going to use a little bit of the green gold. It's a very vibrant color, but light. Definitely more of my nickel or my transparent red iron oxide. I love that stuff. I think there's probably enough purple already on the plate to do what it needs to do. And I'm going to throw in some ultramarine. Now, I have not cleaned my brayer off. My brayer still has those colors from the previous roll. But yeah, I think that will be fine. I don't mind that. If I was trying to get super pure color, I would just take it to the sink and give it a quick rinse. The paint will come off, or, you know, use a clean off sheet. That's another option too. Doesn't get it quite as clean as under the sink, but still works. Oh, that green gold has got a nice glow about it. And there's just enough of the warmer colors in there and the cooler colors to make that interesting. Okay, now I hoped there was a couple on top. That one. I think this one. Yeah, those are the ones that I had put on the top to give it that extra depth. Each of these different colors reacts so differently too. Some of the colors really stick to the plate. They come up well. I shouldn't say they don't come up well, but they seem to give you more prints. They seem to give you more negatives, more positives. Dioxazine purple is a classic example. Anthracnone blue. Whereas other ones, like the carbon black, or the sap green, or the transparent red iron oxide, those ones come up, they just give you a couple, and that's it. They're beautiful, but they're also over fairly quickly. This is a roll-up that's not going to give me a whole lot at the tail end. But I'm hoping, oh yeah, I am enjoying that. I like that combination of the darker shape and still having the voids. That is kind of what I was looking for with this experiment. Okay, now the rest of the stuff comes up. And that's going to make for a very nice last print or two. Some days I'm just so much better at handling those sheets of tissue than other days. So I can see that I am getting a nice positive and ghost. Oh yeah. At this point, I'm not really printing for a specific piece of work in mind. I'm printing to go into the stash. You have to make hay while the sun shines. And in this case, I've got to get these weeds out of the garden before a combination of the heat and my husband gets rid of them for me. So I just thought I'd grab a bunch today and do this experiment. And there's the ghost of the ghost. I hope you enjoyed this experiment today. I had a lot of fun doing it. And if you're interested in seeing my previous printing of Creeping Charlie, which is actually bindweed, I will leave some links in the video and in the description. See you next time.